Yo, what is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NBA to the Galaxy Podcast, presented to you by DSM Media. Do something major with your lives. And me and my guy Scotty back at it again, here to talk playoff hoops. Always a great time when we link up and talk hoops. We definitely don't take it for granted. So much going on in the real world today. And we're going to obviously discuss a major loss in the basketball community as of today. But feeling great. Some series came to an end within the past couple of days. Some series are still going tick for tack. Very entertaining to say the least. But before we dive into the topics, how you feeling today, Scotty?
I'm feeling good, man. Despite obviously the news that you just mentioned regarding Brandon Clarke, we'll obviously talk about that in just a sec. But feeling good, man. Happy Tuesday, despite all the negativity I feel like that's flowing Philadelphia's way after that Sixers Knicks series. I feel like I'm doing all right. I'm building myself back up, so I'm feeling good, brother. But how you feeling? How you enjoying the playoffs so far, my man?
I've been enjoying it, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. I got a chance to watch a matchup last night. Donovan Mitchell put on a performance for sure. That
Yeah.
was nice to watch. But I've been enjoying the playoffs to say the least. So yeah, I can't complain. I'm feeling good.
No, I love to hear that. And yeah, I mean, outside of the Sixers series, I'm feeling pretty good too, honestly. I mean, everything else has been good. Lakers
Yeah.
in a similar boat, so I'm sure D-Rab, you can relate to me a little bit. Maybe not the 30 plus point losses. You can't relate there, but you can relate to getting swept in the second round, I'm sure. But no, aside from those two series, man, it's been very competitive and very fun basketball to watch. But we'll have to get into those series and then we can talk about the fun stuff. We gotta work hard and then we can play and talk about the fun stuff. But overall, man, playoffs have been impressive. Although I will throw out this one overarching caveat that just continues to stick out to me from the regular season, from the beginning of the season, and it is OKC's their depth. But we'll get into that when we talk about the Lakers and OKC. It's just one of those things, man. As I'm watching these games play out, it's hard for me to see a team beating OKC in 7 games, and that goes for this postseason and postseasons moving forward, man. It's very
Mhm.
it's like very demoralizing if you view it from that perspective. Just looking at OKC and what they have in front of them, it's scary, whatever you want to call it, intimidating, whatever. They look like they're going to run the NBA for the next foreseeable future. But aside from that, it's been good, brother. But man, let's I know you wanted to talk about something that's a little bit especially closer home to you. It's closer home to both of us from a mental
Mhm.
standpoint, but I know you're down there in the Memphis, that area in the United States. So I know that is very, very close to home for you, given the team that Brandon Clarke started with in the NBA. So I'll throw it to you first, man. I know we got to start here because we do got to pass our condolences to the young Brandon Clarke, whatever he was going through there.
Yeah, man. Talking about BC, man, Brandon Clarke. Unfortunately, we got some news today that he passed away at the age of 29. Definitely was a shocker, man. Like, when you consider everything that was in tech here, like Brandon Clarke was not a guy who was known to get in trouble outside of the NBA,
Yeah,
not gang affiliated, things like that. But I will say this, he has dealt with a ton of injuries over the past couple of years. He just couldn't stay on the court. So I'm pretty sure whatever it was he was going through, him being injured all the time definitely played a factor in it. No confirmed way of his death quite yet. I mean, you heard rumors of like potential drug OD,
yeah,
if that's to be the case. But just sending my condolences to the Memphis Grizzlies, his teammates over there, his family. I don't really know if he had any kids or whatnot. I didn't get a chance to do research on that. But what I will say is this, man. Based on my knowledge of Brandon Clarke, he was a good player at Gonzaga. He had his plays, high energy, gritty type of guy. And when he was
absolutely.
in Memphis, man, he made the all rookie first team. He had some great years to start when he first came into the NBA.
Yeah,
He just knew his role, didn't really try to do too much for real. We battled the Grizzlies on our way to the fourth championship, and he gave us some problems off the bench. He was a high energy dude, and so it's just unfortunate. The month of May is mental awareness month. And it's okay like to vent out to your problems if you got anybody to do that to. And so I'm just sending my condolences. It's just unfortunate to hear something like that for sure. But yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I thought you laid it out very well, especially, given I would say, minimal knowledge on Brandon Clarke as a whole. Obviously, just watching him very briefly during his time at Gonzaga, like you mentioned, and then obviously the early part of his career in the NBA. I mentioned it to you before the show. He's a guy that, at least probably about 2 seasons ago, maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago, I remember being on one of these podcasts that I was doing at the time and talking about how I like the Sixers to go out and get a guy like Brandon Clarke because he is like that connector piece, that hustle guy. He did the small things for his team. And so you always respect a player like that. That's a guy that could have carved out a nice NBA career for himself, man. I look at guys like Draymond Green. I know that's a lofty comparison, right? When you talk about role players, connector pieces, that type of guy, but they do find their way. They can find their way in the NBA to success. It sucks that he wasn't able to find his, and hopefully he can rest now. I can only imagine what goes through your mind, when you have one lofty expectations, like any expectations we had for Brandon Clarke. He probably had 10 times the amount of expectations for himself. Same thing with his family. Any expectations we had for Brandon Clarke, his family probably had 5 times the amount of expectations
Yeah, that's a
personally.
good way to look at it. Yeah.
So it's like, when you have all of this pressure weighing down on you, when you are like, when things are out of your control to an extent as well, when you talk about injuries, that's when things can really start coming crashing down. So hopefully he's at peace is where I'll leave that. And, sending condolences to his family for sure. And to any of his teammates, that ever played with him. I'm sure that hurts as well. The Gonzagas, the Grizzlies teams, all of them that got to know him personally. So it's just like you said, man, you don't want to undervalue or, underappreciate life. And I think that's why it's good to take this time at the beginning of the show like we did, man. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for giving the time back to us, man. Appreciate you bringing it up, son.
Yeah, man, this is definitely something that shouldn't get overlooked. This is major news. We look at the Grizzlies per se, like I don't even know where they go from here. Like he was one of the longest 10-year players. He's been there for 7 years his whole career.
Yeah.
And it's just like everything is going downhill for that organization, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So interesting to see like how they move after tragedy like that. And yeah, just gotta show you too, Scotty, that it's not all about the money too, because Brandon Clarke was a millionaire. He's making like 12 million this year.
Yeah.
And it's just reality may start sinking in on him that he could never be the same player that he once was due to all the injuries kicking in. And so that's why I say like mental health is a serious thing, and that's why we have to celebrate the month of May, mental health awareness month. So
yeah.
10
points, 5 rebounds per game in his short NBA career. As you mentioned, obviously dealt with injuries, played 309 total games, 50 starts. But I think, you can look at his career numbers, and that speaks to what was there, when he played. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, definitely feel that, man. All right. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard when you start with something, that deep. Yeah. Man. It is hard, but we'll try to reroute here and liven it up a bit. But yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah. Let's pivot towards where I know it's not necessarily going to be livening it up, but it could be livening it up depending on how you view it. Let's shift gears over to the Philadelphia 76ers. Talk about the first round, right? They was down 3-1 to the Boston Celtics, correct?
Yeah.
So they completed the 3-1 comeback. Essentially, Joel Embiid came back and honestly changed the whole trajectory of that series. His presence alone was felt. Both fans to be exact. And so they put out the Boston Celtics. Tatum was there. Obviously missed Game 7, but He came back. And so they completed the 3-1 comeback. Move on to the second round to play the New York Knicks. A lot of talk saying that they could put out the Knicks if healthy, but you start to see Joel Embiid body sort of kind of fail him essentially. He was taking hits left or right. He just kept grimacing at pain. He just couldn't hide it anymore. And so he missed a game, right? Maybe two. I know for sure a game he missed, but
Say miss one.
yeah, I know he missed a game for sure. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, the Knicks end up sweeping your Sixers in the second round.
Yeah.
But just talk to me and the audience, man. Like, where do you guys go from here? Like, do you just do a complete roster overhaul? Do you get rid of Daryl Morey, fire Nick Nurse? Like, which direction are you thinking that you guys should pivot to?
Yeah, man. I'll start, just where the Sixers are at right now, right? And, you look at all the talk leaving this Knicks series. It's not just that the Sixers got swept. I mean, this is for another show, but Philadelphia is getting talked about as if it's not a sports town now because the way the Knicks traveled down and, packed out our arena. But I think something that, outsiders outside of Philadelphia have to realize about this Sixers team specifically and the ownership is that people are fed up with this Sixers ownership, with this Sixers, like the process era, all of this, the disappointments of the Embiid injuries, the constant injuries elsewhere, the bad money spent elsewhere. It's all coming to a point. And then on top of all of that, not to get into, politics or government or anything like that, but dude is mentioned, the owner of the Sixers is mentioned in the Epstein files over a dozen to 20 times. So that's another point added towards the Sixers fans not wanting to invest their money into this team or organization. And so I just want to start it there, just like to lay the groundwork for that, because every other sport you see Philadelphia fans show out. They're a sports town. We're very dedicated, and I just don't like how that's being misconstrued after this showing against the Knicks, where, let's be honest, the Knicks are the example of what the Sixers should be, or what the Sixers thought they could be when they started this process era, right? And so I look at, the New York Knicks and some of their players, even like these are Philadelphia players. I mean, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart all played for Villanova, a college based in Philadelphia. They won a national championship for Villanova in the city of Philadelphia. And so, like, what I'm trying to say there, you have all these connections between the two squads. It just creates a very, like, toxic type of environment. And then you throw in the fact that, yeah, they are down 0-3 in this series going into that game 4. I look back in this series, man, aside from all of the outside noise, I look back in this series. It was decided in game 2. The Sixers had an opportunity. That game ends, I believe, 108-102. They lose by 6 points. They led most of the way. Embiid did not play in that game. It was the closest game of the 3 from my memory, at least, just watching them all. So it feels like when they blew that game, that's when the series ultimately was over, because they came back home to Philly and they just couldn't get back up at all. To answer your question, finally, what's next? I would start at the top. Yeah, if I could force the owner to sell the team, that's what I would say. There's no way that we can force the owner to sell the team without completely boycotting the 76ers and not spending money on them. After Josh Harris, I would like to see Daryl Morey go, because whether that was Josh Harris, Daryl Morey at the trade deadline not making any moves, you saw it kill us in the postseason against the Knicks, the lack of depth. It wasn't just Brunson and OG and, Mikal Bridges or Cat. It wasn't just them torching us in this series. It was Landry Shamet. It was Deuce McBride. It was Mitchell Robinson off the bench. So there was a lot going on, just a lot of glowing examples in our face of what the Sixers have failed at. And, I'm looking at Nick Nurse even, man, and I think he's just kind of a victim of his crowd or his surroundings, right? Like if Daryl Morey goes, I think Nick Nurse has to go too. So it's not necessarily all against Nick Nurse. I'm not totally out on him. I'm just ready to go in a new direction completely. And I will even throw this out there, man. Like I'm not like jumping the gun completely here. I'm not saying I want Embiid out of Philadelphia, but I would be open to seeing what can be done, whether it be Paul George or Joel Embiid, seeing what we could do there, because those contracts are obviously not great. My gut feeling is that we would not be able to move either of them for anything of substance. So I doubt it happens. I think you just got to go with that group over the next 2 years, probably at least. But I don't know, man. It's hard to answer outside of like starting with the front office clearinghouse there and letting some new minds come together. But they're just locked in financially, bro. All this money in Maxey, Embiid, and Paul George has us completely locked up. Oubre is an unrestricted free agent. Grimes, unrestricted free agent, I believe. Drum is an unrestricted free agent, and then Kyle Lowry he's going to retire. So what do you do with those guys, right? Like I think you need to upgrade. I'd be down to keep one of Oubre or Grimes. I'm not keeping both of them because they're both inconsistent. They have some really high peaks, but they have some really low valleys. And so I'm only doing one of those wild card type of guys in Oubre or Grimes. Appreciate everything they did this year. I want to make that clear. Oubre especially, I think I'd probably lean towards Oubre more than Grimes if I had to, but Grimes is a little bit younger. Rebounding, man. We just suck at like the fundamentals. And it's just been that way for a really long time. So I'm venting right now. I apologize. But it's been that way for a very long time. The same issues over and over and over. And the last thing I'll say regarding this series, and I'll pass it back to you, Tyrese Maxey, man, really, really disappointed me in this series. I just want to throw that out there. That's my guy. I've been riding the Maxey train since we drafted him, since I saw those flashes at Kentucky. Drafted him at the 21st pick, I believe it was, in the first round. And I've been riding the Maxey wave since. That was the most disappointing output I've ever seen from him. Just given the expectations versus the output, he got dominated by Jalen Brunson. If you just compare the head-to-head star guard versus star guard, I know they didn't guard each other, but he got dominated by Jalen Brunson in a head-to-head matchup from my perspective. And really, really disappointed in him specifically. But I'll throw it back to you, man. What did you see from the outside looking in and hearing everything I just had to say? Where does that bring you to with this series, with the Sixers more specifically?
I think it comes down to one big question. How much more longer are you going to continue to keep trusting the process? Joel Embiid has been with this organization over 10 years now, and for the most part, during his tenure here, it's been the same story, just a different year.
Yeah.
Just unfortunately can't stay healthy. None of us ever question the talent. We know the type of talent this guy is. It's just his body is just unfortunately failing him, and that's just the reality of it all. Like when he's out there on the court for you guys, he just presents a different dynamic to your team that we don't see without him. But he just can't stay out there. His body's just unfortunately failing him, like I mentioned. So I think it's time to do some hard evaluating, starting with Joel. Like you said, take some phone calls, quietly shop him, see what you can get for him. Start there for sure. Yeah. Paul George, on the other hand, here he may be more tricky than Joel because of the contract situation. He's making like over $50 million a year. And so it's gonna be hard for teams to kind of like want to take his contract. He's getting older. He's like 36 years old. Paul George can still be very good, but at the same time, he do have his moments where it's questionable. Like I mentioned to you, when he took that 3 in game 4, was it? I think. Oh, game two, right? My bad, game two. When he took that three at the end, I know he was looking to get quick points, but it still was question, with you being a veteran and all.
Yeah.
So I think that you start at the top. Maxey, on the other hand, I definitely feel you. We all expect him to play better for sure. But him being young, you give him grace because you know the type of talent he can be. He has yet to reach his potential like Max. He
Yeah.
has a lot of untapped potential that need to get, tapped into. So I think that it's just time to like maybe look to pivot from Joel, see what you can get from him, and then just let Maxi run the show, go from there. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point because I think each year we sit here and we just get our hopes up. You mentioned Paul George. He's interesting, man. He talked in his post series presser about his explosiveness or lack thereof, and how he's going to try to get that back this off season. But I agree with him. That's clearly what his game lacks. He cannot get to the rim. He's settled for way too many jump shots because he just couldn't get past his man. He made some of them every once in a while, but it's game 3 that I'm thinking of specifically where he scored 15 points in the first quarter and then did not score another basket in that said game. And I think that just speaks to his legs, to his age, what he does on the defensive side of things, and how that, impacts the offensive side of things. And so I feel you. His impact, even with Joel's injury history, Joel's impact is still there when he is on the court, which makes it a little. You're willing to take a little bit more risk on Joel, right? Because the benefit is greater. Whereas Paul George, like you said, you'll get a solid, like a solid player that can defend a good bit. He'll do a little bit of the little things, but might get tired towards the end of the season. And I think that's just looking at PG in the latter half of his career. But yeah, it's hard to say where the Sixers go from here. I wanted to throw it to you for the Knicks before we move on, of course. Any thoughts, with the Knicks? I think they obviously proved they were the better team. But they look solid, man. They look like they're hitting their stride at the right moment. I will say the OG Anunoby hamstring, that's concerning. I don't think they're beating Detroit without OG Anunoby. I guess I gave.
I was gonna say, getting ahead of yourself.
Yeah, getting ahead of myself. I think Detroit will beat the Cavs, and so I do think it will be Detroit versus New York, and I don't think New York can beat Detroit or the Cavs without OG Anunoby. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree that hamstring injuries, man, is no joke, man. I bring it up every time I look at a guy like James Harden. He's been dealing with over the course of his career, bro. They come and go, man. You just never know. And in this scenario, he strained his hamstring, so that's never good. So, I think OG, he's a tough player. I feel like if the Knicks can like manage his minutes more, then it could work out. You just probably got to play Mikal more or go, big with Cat at the 4 essentially than the 5. Just balance it out, I'd say. So it's ways you can like work around it for sure. So, but while we're speaking about the Knicks right quick, I do have to give Mike Brown a ton of credit.
Yeah.
This guy has really done a phenomenal job coaching these guys. He's playing the Carl Towns strength. He's making him a playmaker, which unlocks a whole nother dynamic of his offense. Something that Tom Thibodeau didn't do. And also, he's playing bench guys like Deuce McBride having big games, Jose Alvarado being the pest he is, Landry Shamet, Mitchell Robinson. So he's just done a phenomenal job just coaching these guys, not just playing the starters into the ground. So shout out to Mike Brown.
Pressing the right buttons for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but let's shift gears over to the Western Conference. Talking about the Los Angeles Lakers, unfortunately, man, they got swept against the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you're the Lakers organization, players, or heck, even fans, you shouldn't feel bad because the fact of the matter is, I don't think we ever seen a team this good as the Oklahoma City Thunder, and it's coming from a Warriors fan, by the way. Like, the way their team is just orchestrated from 1 through 15, man. Like, you can genuinely say that 1 through 15, those guys can literally go out there and get you 15 points, not per game, but in any game they can give you 15. And
Yeah.
so it just speaks of the volume of their skill sets on their team, man. They got a ton of depth. Guys are just locked in. They know they role. They don't do too much, and they all rely to Shea to get the job done when his number is called upon. So when I look at the Lakers, man, they got some questions that need to be answered in the offseason. What's next for LeBron? Do you bring back a DeAndre Ayton? What's next for Rui, his contract? Austin Reeves looking to get paid. What Luka looks like when he come back from his injury. There's a ton of things that need to be answered for sure. But I'm curious to know your thoughts on which direction you think the Lakers should head in.
Yeah, I think you got to see where LeBron's head is at and what he has, in his next plans. Whether and I think even to the point, like it's not just are you going to play next season? How many seasons are you going to play before you call it quits? And I think that should play a factor in how they move as well, right? Because the team needs to be built around Luka Doncic. That's the superstar now. That's the main player now. That's the number one. And so if LeBron is like halfway in, halfway out, do they consider, moving on from LeBron? Probably not. I doubt that, LeBron doesn't have his say in the things. But from a standpoint of how they should move, I think they should keep all options on the table, man. With JJ Redick, a mind like that, getting him the right guys, I think is really important. Just outside of that LeBron conversation, but getting the right pieces in there. I think JJ does have a great basketball mind that he can put something special together there in LA. It's just a matter of getting the right pieces in there around Luka. So it'll be interesting to see what the Lakers do. I imagine their salary cap situation is not very friendly. Probably similar to the Sixers, I would imagine, because they do have 3 stars. I know maybe people don't look at Austin Reeves like a max guy, but he's a max guy. Like he probably is a max guy. He's gonna get paid. He's gonna get paid. Rui,
one way or another.
Yeah. Rui is gonna get paid. I do think Rui is going to get paid. I think he's shown some really great things with LA over the last few seasons. I think they should make it a priority to keep him as well. I think he fits.
Yeah, I would have to agree. But you know what, though? A lot of Lakers fans, they don't agree with that, man.
Really?
They don't agree that Rui should be a priority. I guess they view it from the perspective of, like, he's hitting open shots, like, doing what he's supposed to do. But I look at it, like, from this postseason, the last postseason, he's been the most consistent player, literally. In my opinion, just based on what I've seen with my own 2 eyes. So
I do agree. Man. But I think you look at the Lakers outside of the Spurs in the West, you just gotta. I think you have to keep all of your options on the table because you're shooting for the stars. You're not shooting. You know what I mean? Like you're shooting like past the moon right now for what you have to get to compete with OKC. And so from that standpoint, from that mindset, I think everybody needs to keep all options on the table and don't rule anything out and be willing to take some risks because I think that's what you're going to have to do in order to compete with OKC. You talked about it, man. 1 through 15. SGA didn't even have like a MVP series. You know what I mean? He didn't have to because he had Cason Wallace coming off hitting like 6 threes in one game. And then you had Jared McCain in a 2-game span go like 8 for 9 from the 3-point line or 8 for 10 from the 3-point line. So it's like guys like that. I mean, they can bring in Wiggins. They can bring in Roberson. Like it's just a ridiculous amount of guys that they have on that bench, man. And like you said, they can win you a said game if they get hot from the 3-point line or if they're attacking the rim, or it could just be SGA, or it could just be J-Dub returning, or it could be Chet just having a game, feeling it from the 3-point line, getting to the rack. Like they have so many ways that they can beat you that it's a little demoralizing, man. But
it is, man, because they was actually playing good defense on SGA, but
they were.
The MVP of that series was definitely AJ Mitchell. That dude was killing.
Good call out.
I gotta give that guy some credit. He was balling for sure.
Yeah.
And that's a scary side. Well, okay, see, they just got guys that can just come in and do their thing, but
weren't even missing.
Yeah, he's definitely a bugger for sure. But it's interesting to see which direction the Lakers tend to go. a lot of questions. When you look at a guy like DeAndre Ayton. Ah, man, that's a conversation for another day. But
That's an experience, bro.
long story short, if that brother is not in the league going into next season, I would not be surprised.
He should not be in the league, man. Just watching the effort or lack thereof that he plays with, I wouldn't be able to stand watching him play for my team. I don't understand how he doesn't just get benched.
Oh, he definitely got benched. Jackson Hayes actually outperformed him in Game 4. But he
Definitely.
definitely.
I just mean like sooner. Like honestly, like
Oh, okay,
the
okay,
fact
yeah.
that he
That's
was
true.
still playing in the rotation come the postseason. I know he goes up and down. His thing is inconsistency, especially when it comes in that effort department. But there's so much talent, bro, in like the basketball world. Like you said, a conversation for another day. There's so much talent in the basketball world. You don't have to put up with guys like that anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Like you look at guys like a Nas Reed, undrafted. Look at the type of
Great
career he's
example.
carved out. Yeah, like he undrafted. Look at the type of career he's carved out for himself.
Yeah.
So, but let's three more things before we get up out of here. Let's recap Donovan Mitchell crazy performance last night.
Yeah.
My guy literally scored. Was it 39 in the second half? Yeah, he scored 39 in the second half. He tied a playoff game record. He wheeled the Cavaliers on his back, led those guys to the promised land. A huge win to tie the series. The first half, I love what I seen. He wasn't really getting to it. He was trying to get that, but shots wasn't falling. But James Harden was keeping those guys afloat, playmaking. Guys like Sam Merrill hitting big shots, things of that nature. But what are your thoughts on Donovan Mitchell's performance last night, man?
Yeah, no, I think last night, obviously, he really had an elite performance, and the game
Mhm.
before that as well, man. I thought he played really well over the weekend, especially from the scoring department. I think the last two games for Spida, he's gotten back to what I expect from
Right.
Donovan Mitchell, which is superstar performances, 30-plus point games, a little bit of what web slinging that he'd be doing out there in Cleveland. That's what I expected from Donovan Mitchell, and it's what we asked for last week and on the last couple shows when we've talked about Donovan Mitchell is when are we going to get that statement performance? I think he's given definitely one in last night's matchup, obviously with the 43 points in that game. But also in the game prior to that, where they were also able to gather a W to go towards tying this series up. So
Yeah.
I think he's coming out and he's saying I'm going to match or outperform Cade Cunningham, which I think is an interesting concept in this series, man, because Cade had a little bit of a down night last night. I think you could say just from his standard. And then even in the first couple games of the series, he struggled with turning the ball over. So I do think Cleveland has something interesting going on there with how they're guarding and defending Cade. But them two going at it, it's very interesting to see who will come out on top.
Yeah, for sure. That was a great matchup. I think Cleveland got out of momentum right now, but we shall see
They
in
do.
Game 5 as they go back to Detroit. So
James Harden. Just want to shout him out real quick because he had some big naysayers coming out after that stinker in Game 2. Rightfully so. I think Nick Wright on FS1 said he's like the biggest playoff dropper of like all time or something. He bounced back in a big way the last two games as well. So wanted to
yeah,
throw him
shout out Uno, man. Shout out Uno. But yeah, man. Before we get up out of here, let's preview today's matchup. We had the San Antonio Spurs
Yes,
versus the
sir.
Minnesota TWolves. The TWolves were able to win the last game. Ant-Man with Bazooka, like he did his thing.
Yes,
Wemby
sir.
got ejected in that game. I'm curious to know your thoughts on that right quick. Like, did you feel like that was necessary for him to get ejected? I think personnel matters in a scenario like that. Like Wemby is a nice guy. I say like he's
Yeah.
not a guy that's. I don't think he's intentionally trying to hurt you by any means, but you gotta call it how you see it. He
Yeah.
did elbow Nas Reed, in the restricted area. Dylan Harper reaction said it all in the video though. So.
It was tough. It was tough. It's a very close call, I would say. Between flagrant 1 and flagrant 2 getting ejected. What I would ultimately attribute it to, I agree with you. I don't think Wemby is a demonstrative person. I don't think he's, going out there trying to hurt people or anything like that. I think he was just young, got a little out of control, lost his head a little bit. And not saying he did it on purpose, but anytime you're swinging those big ass elbows around like that, you might hurt somebody, brother. You are 7'4". I think it was a little bit of not knowing his own size, man. Like, just he's still a 20-year-old kid, like filling his frame, just doesn't even realize how big he is. But I mean, that elbow, I think it's the fact that it caught full like contact. Like that shit could have knocked Nas out, like literally knocked him out cold. It looked like it hurt. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, that didn't look like a flop. That didn't look like one of those where, Nas had to sell that. I think that one legitimately hurt, and I think once again it's on the line. I don't know, playoffs, man. I don't know if I'm kicking Wemby out the game. Man, like, just from a competitive, but I guess it can't be decided like that at the same time, right? You got to go by the rules. You got to go by the way it looks. There was one view that made me side a little bit more towards ejection, and I think I did see where Wemby was able to see that Nas was behind him. Not saying he did it on purpose. I'm just saying he maybe could have held it back a little bit, right? Like maybe not went full through with the elbow. But overall, learning lesson for Wemby: keep your head, be aware of your surroundings. It's unfortunate at the same time. I say all of that. It's not like he made this like devastating mistake. Not in my opinion, but it did cost them a game when you look back on it. Do they win this game if Wemby doesn't get ejected? I mean, the way he's been playing, I don't know. That game before, bro, where he had what was it, 40 plus points, like 15 plus rebounds.
Yeah, he was efficient too. Yeah, he was very efficient.
Game 3. That was a ridiculous game.
Yeah, because they won one on the road. Yeah,
that's one of those out of this world type of performances, bro. So got to keep your head. They were playing him physical, to be fair to Minnesota as well. They were bringing physicality to him. They're bumping him around, and I think that's why you get that reaction out of them. So kudos to Minnesota for winning the mental game to an extent.
Yeah, for sure. That's what it's all about, the little tactics, the little things that if you can get any type of edge over your opponent, then some would say that you technically won a series if you think about it. So
yeah, exactly. And you saw that in the last series with Minnesota and Jaden McDaniels and the way he was treating those guys. Right, so they do play some mental games there in Minnesota. I can appreciate that.
Where you can get in your opponent's head, and throw them off their square. You've done your job for sure. So
shout out Ant as well. I know you mentioned that earlier, playing through the both knees injured right now.
Yeah.
Really gritty. Shout out to Ant for sure.
Yeah, you definitely got to commend a guy like that because, nowadays, I got to use this reference, bro. Like, nowadays, cats are missing games because their pinky is hurt. Podcast P.
How you think Maxey felt playing with his pinky hurt and nobody really recognizing it, but this man, Paul George, sat out with the pinky injury last year? Like,
that was funny.
Because Maxey did. He had a torn ligament in his pinky on his shooting hand. So he kind of has an excuse of how bad he played.
But like,
I just know he can.
If they approve you to play, you should play, bro. Like,
play. Yeah.
You look at a guy like Kobe, bro. He really set the standard. Like, Kobe literally was damn near. It was really all in his mind. His body was damn near done for, but he still was like that playing for real, bro. You gotta acknowledge and commend a guy like that, though. Nowadays, bro, these cats would do anything to miss a freaking game, bro.
Yeah, straight up.
Get paid millions of dollars just to like not go out there and hoop. But one last thing before we get up out of here, man.
Yeah.
Tonight, Minnesota versus San Antonio. This is a very important game 5, is it right? Yeah, 2-2. Important game 5. They're going back to San Antonio. They're going back to San Antonio. What you thinking, man? Who you think got the momentum right now?
Minnesota has the momentum. You had Ant come out and have a hell of a game in Game 4 to tie that up in Game 4, tie the series. That being said, I think this is another kind of, I guess, like a bounce back game for the Spurs, right? And I call it a bounce back game, but it's really just Wemby's going to play the entire game, and now he's going to be well rested and pissed off and at home.
Yeah.
So I do think, while I say Minnesota coming off the big win, they should have momentum. I think the momentum is going to flip back to San Antonio. I do think they are the better team. They're the deeper team. It's just experience, man. You talked about mental gymnastics, mental mind games, and that does play a part in this series. I just think, this series is shaping up to be what? A 7-game series, like the way it's playing out. We'll see how it goes down the rest of the way. But these guys are going back and forth, and I think, it's the Spurs' turn to throw the punches. So that's where I'm going tonight. That's what I'm feeling. I like the comment, Wemby 35-point triple-double, because he's going to normalize this shit over the next couple years, man. Normalizing, 30-point triple-doubles, but with blocks.
Steals.
He does crazy shit on the basketball court, man. And it's very, very unfair when he's locked in, especially like he was in Game 3. He's unstoppable. When he's shooting the ball the way he was in Game 3, he's unstoppable. I think he's going to be fired up tonight, bro.
Yeah, I got the Spurs responding in great fashion. I'm not gonna lie to you, Scotty. De'Aaron Fox has to come on with it, man. We can't keep sparing him. He's a veteran. Because sooner or later, man, we've seen this pattern before. Unfortunately, they're gonna have to make a decision because Stephon Kelsey and Dylan Harper are just getting better and better every playoff game. Not just any game. Every game in the playoffs, they're showing you what they can be as a tandem together. You start to wonder then where does De'Aaron Fox fit in at? So I think that this is now for De'Aaron Fox to kind of show his value for real. Just he's a vet. He doesn't have a ton of playoff experience. I will give him grace on that, but he's more than capable than going out there and being like that 1B to Wemby. I'll say.
I do agree with that. I do agree. He's the guy with experience that has to step up. Can you get a guy like Devin Vassell? Can you get him hot tonight at home? Can you get a couple shots for you? Or a Julian Champagny, right?
Yeah.
You get those guys going, that's when you really start to see the Spurs rolling. You mentioned it when Fox is playing with confidence. Dylan Harper, that's a great plug because that dude, he's come off the bench of late and has just been tearing it up. He's a bucket. And he does the little things too. I don't think he gets enough credit for that, like the playmaking, the defense as well, just being in the right spot at the right time. Smart basketball player, starting to really look like that number 2 overall draft pick, man. So I think all valid points. It's a competition within the team when you look at that Spurs roster, how deep they are. So,
yep. It'll be interesting to see how things go, but the matchup is about to tip off soon. I definitely will be tapped in. Hope anybody out there is watching tapped in. For anybody that tapped in and watched us, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram. X is all the same handle, to the Galaxy Pod, at NBA to the Galaxy Pod, which one of those it is. But I appreciate everybody that tapped in. Me and my guy Scotty will definitely be here again next week.
Yes, sir.
And enjoy the hoops today, man. See, important
real
game.
Real quick. Pistons or Cavs?
Originally, man, I had Detroit, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I gotta get that to Cleveland. I think that they really changed the whole trajectory of this series. So give me Cleveland, man.
Gonna need Detroit to bounce back. We'll see where it goes, man. But appreciate you, Slim. Appreciate all of you out there. Until next time, guys.
Peace.
Peace.